They shot this image of a suspect and recorded his voice.
Were you on the bridge?
I told them I was on the bridge. I went out to the first trestle.
Oh, okay.
That first
I
thing
don't remember you telling me that.
It's all right, babe. I love you. I didn't murder anybody. I didn't help somebody murder anybody.
For years, the identity of the man on the bridge remained a haunting mystery, a shadow in a small Indiana town that left everyone asking the same question. Who could commit such an unthinkable act against two innocent girls? Abigail Williams was only 13. Liberty German was 14. Two bright young lives taken in the cold February air while the world watched helplessly. But in the chaos of grief and confusion, a single clue sat silently on a phone, a few seconds of video that would later shock the nation. Could a handful of frames, recorded so casually by Liberty, really be the key to solving one of the most chilling unsolved crimes in recent history? Picture the Monon High Bridge, empty, frozen in winter, and yet, captured in that brief clip, a figure walks calmly, hands in pockets, looking forward, as if he knew something no one else did. Just as investigators were closing in, confident that the Delphi case might finally be solved, a shocking new clue emerged, one that changed everything and shook the entire investigation to its core. Who was this man? Did he know he was being recorded? And why did it take years for this video to point to the breakthrough that law enforcement had been chasing for so long? Every detail mattered: his clothing, his gait, the whisper of a single phrase captured in the background, "down the hill." Each frame held secrets, and each secret brought investigators closer and yet farther from the truth than they ever imagined. In this video, we dive deep into that evidence, the very footage detectives used to finally identify the man who had haunted the bridge for years. Every motion, every angle, every shadow matters, because in those seconds, the story of the Delphi murders was waiting to be revealed. Questions. Could the suspect have known he was being recorded? Why did the investigation take so long? Were early clues overlooked or ignored? What other evidence might still be hidden on the bridge or trail? Does the suspect's behavior match his timeline and psychology? Stay with us, because every second of this video brings you closer to the truth than the headlines ever did. It was a quiet afternoon in Delphi, Indiana. Two teenage girls were hiking along the Monon High Bridge Trail, their laughter mingling with the crisp February air. Abigail Williams, just 13, and Liberty German, 14, were enjoying a simple school holiday outing, an afternoon of walking, talking, and exploring the trail that wound through the woods above the town. The bridge stretched above the frozen creek below, a familiar landmark in a town that prided itself on safety and community. The girls wandered freely, stopping at points to glance down over the water, pointing at the patterns of ice and trees below. Their phones captured moments of their laughter, moments that, just hours later, would become critical evidence in a case that would haunt the nation. In the surface, it was an ordinary day, the kind of day any parent would imagine their child enjoying outdoors. Their hike was peaceful, uneventful, a moment of teenage freedom and innocent exploration. Picnic snacks in their backpacks, laughter echoing through the empty trail, the air crisp and still. No one could have predicted that these ordinary steps along the familiar bridge would soon be etched into one of Indiana's most chilling investigations. Investigators later noted the environment carefully. The trail itself was elevated, narrow in certain sections, with limited visibility beneath the bridge. Trees and brush provided natural cover, a factor that would later complicate the search and investigation. But on this afternoon, it only added to the serene, untouched beauty of the place. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Liberty's video was short, casual, a fleeting clip capturing a moment in time. But sometimes, investigators say, it is the smallest details that matter most. Every frame, every subtle sound, every shadow would later hold a key to understanding what happened that day. And yet, even in this ordinary day, There were traces of the extraordinary, a subtle shift in the wind, the echoing of footsteps that didn't belong to anyone familiar, the way the bridge seemed emptier than usual. These small observations, unnoticed at the time, would later become threads investigators pulled to unravel the mystery. But on that afternoon, all that existed was normalcy, carefree conversation, gentle sunlight, and the distant murmur of the town below. Questions that would later torment detectives were invisible at that moment. Did the suspect know he was being recorded? Were there clues already overlooked by passers-by? Could something in this seemingly calm environment have signaled danger if only someone had noticed? Behavioral experts would later reflect on these early moments. They noted that perpetrators often select locations that appear ordinary, even inviting, places where unsuspecting victims feel safe. A bridge, a trail, a quiet town in winter. At the time, none of this seemed suspicious, but psychologists say it is precisely this illusion of safety that can embolden a criminal, that can make an ordinary afternoon become a prelude to tragedy. Their steps were casual, measured. Conversations about school, friends, and weekend plans filled the air. There was no rush, no tension, only the normal rhythm of teenage life. Yet investigators would later examine the timing of every action, every pause, every glance captured on that brief video. At first, it seemed insignificant, but those few seconds, recorded almost by chance, would become the first tangible link in a chain that would lead to the man known only as Bridge Guy. No one walking the trail that day could have imagined what would unfold. What investigators discovered later would completely change the direction of the case and reveal just how fragile a sense of safety can be on a day that seemed so ordinary. As Liberty German recorded her hike along the Monon High Bridge Trail, her phone captured something that would later shock investigators. At first, it seemed like any ordinary clip, a fleeting moment of an ordinary afternoon. But within those few seconds, a shadow crossed the bridge, a figure so ordinary in appearance that no one at the time could imagine its significance. Yet this would become the first tangible lead in one of Indiana's most haunting cases. At first, it seemed insignificant, just a man walking along the bridge. But forensic analysts later realized the importance of every detail: his posture, the rhythm of his steps, the angle of his shoulders. Even the faint whisper captured by Liberty's phone, the words "down the hill," became a chilling clue that would anchor the investigation. This was the first appearance of what the media would later call Bridge Guy, a name that would become synonymous with fear, suspicion, and questions that would haunt Delphi for years. But at the time, it was simply a fleeting image, a figure walking calmly, unaware that he had been captured on film. Did the man notice Liberty recording him? Could he have known his image was preserved forever on a small phone in the hands of a 14-year-old girl? Investigators would later debate these questions endlessly. Behavioral experts suggest that some offenders are meticulous, aware of potential witnesses, while others act with an unsettling nonchalance. Which was true in this case? For detectives, this video was more than just a blurry figure. It was the first tangible clue in a case that had seemed impossible to solve. Clothing, gait, and posture were all meticulously documented. Every micro detail was logged, cross-referenced with witness reports, and compared against sketches later released to the public. At first, it seemed like nothing, but investigators quickly realized this short clip would guide nearly every aspect of the investigation. The Monon High Bridge itself became an evidence hotspot. Investigators noted the elevated position, limited visibility underneath, and areas where shadows could conceal a person entirely. Psychologists observing the video later commented on the suspect's body language: calm, deliberate, unhurried, traits consistent with individuals who have confidence that they are not being observed. Yet, paradoxically, he had been recorded. The irony would later fuel both investigators and behavioral analysts alike. Could this small moment of footage reveal the suspect's intentions? Some experts believe that subtle cues, a shift in posture, the direction of the gaze, even the pace of steps can provide insight into an offender's mindset. Did the man sense anyone nearby? Was this a random crossing or part of something more deliberate? Investigators had to answer these questions without jumping to conclusions, piecing together a puzzle that had no clear image, only a blurry shadow, a few words whispered, and the weight of possibility. And yet, for all its importance, the clip raised more questions than answers. Why had no one seen him before? Could there have been other witnesses along the trail? Was this bridge the only location where the suspect was observed, or merely one small part of his pattern? These lingering questions formed the foundation of the investigation, keeping detectives on edge and the public deeply invested in the search for answers. The last video recording was not just a simple clip. It was the thread that, if pulled carefully, could unravel the entire mystery. But what investigators discovered next, details hidden within the shadows of this footage, would completely change the direction of the case and shock the community. The bridge would no longer be a silent witness. It had become a crucial piece of evidence, pointing toward a man whose presence no one had anticipated. Every second of the video was a clue. But who was this man? Walking calmly across the bridge, hands in his pockets, his pace measured, almost deliberate. The faint whisper captured by Liberty German's phone, "down the hill," sent chills through investigators, hinting that this was no ordinary passerby. Every frame of the clip demanded attention. Every shadow and movement would later prove critical in piecing together the mystery. At first glance, he seemed ordinary. A man in his 40s, wearing a hat and jacket, walking across the bridge. But forensic analysts later noted the precision of his movements. Shoulders squared, gait consistent, hands tucked casually into pockets. Behavioral experts would later suggest that such composure could indicate someone confident, perhaps accustomed to being observed, yet undeterred. A man aware of his surroundings, but not necessarily expecting to be caught. Did he speak those words to himself, to someone else, or were they directed to an unseen observer? Investigators would debate for months whether the audio was a command, a warning, or simply incidental. Each possibility carried a dark implication, adding another layer of complexity to the case. Every detail mattered: the jacket, the hat, the angle of his head. Investigators cross-referenced witness statements, trying to match this man to the sightings along the bridge and trail that same afternoon. At first, it seemed like just another vague lead, but this small detail would become crucial. As investigators approached the video like a puzzle, examining it frame by frame, each motion, each pause suggested intention. The calm demeanor, experts later noted, can be a hallmark of certain offenders, individuals who blend into ordinary settings to avoid suspicion. But some behavioral analysts also warned, composure can be a mask. Was this man truly at ease, or was he concealing a dangerous intent? Every frame hinted at a story, but whose story? Was he simply walking across the bridge unaware of the camera, or was he carefully navigating a scene only he fully understood? The more investigators analyzed, the more questions arose, and with each question, the mystery deepened. Investigators began layering the clues. Clothing and posture were compared to tips from hikers who reported seeing a man near the bridge. The hat, the jacket, the casual gait, all elements that helped refine the suspect's profile. Some behavioral experts believe that careful observation of body language can reveal underlying motivations, and in this case, every subtle movement was scrutinized for hints of intent, familiarity, or threat. Was he aware he was being recorded? Could he have noticed Liberty filming him? And if so, why did he not react? These questions haunted detectives, forming the foundation of the profile that would later guide the investigation toward a suspect. At first, these clues seemed isolated, but together they began to form a pattern. The bridge itself became a silent witness. Elevated, isolated, partially obscured by winter trees. a location that allowed for both casual passage and concealment. Investigators would later consider whether the suspect deliberately chose this location, knowing it offered a degree of anonymity while still crossing paths with potential witnesses. Psychological profiling suggested that some offenders select such spaces because they balance exposure and control, a calculated risk that few would detect at first glance. The mysterious man on the bridge had revealed himself, but only partially. Every second of footage, every subtle movement, every whispered word raised questions that would take years to answer. What investigators discovered next, linking the man's behavior, the video, and witness accounts, would completely change the course of the investigation and bring the case one step closer to an unexpected breakthrough. Detectives began the painstaking process of analyzing the footage captured by Liberty German's phone. Every frame mattered. Every shadow, every movement, every whisper of sound could hold the key to identifying a man who had remained invisible to the public eye for years. At first, it seemed like a simple video, but detectives quickly realized that even a few seconds of footage could break the case wide open. They enhanced the footage using specialized software, clarifying details that were nearly imperceptible in the raw recording. From the angle of the hat to the fold of the jacket, nothing was overlooked. Detectives meticulously documented his gait, the way he shifted weight from one foot to another, the rhythm of his steps. Experts note that gait can be as unique as a fingerprint, a subtle indicator of age, weight, and even habitual behavior. In this case, it provided investigators with clues that would later help narrow down potential suspects. Could this man's stride reveal something about his personality? Some behavioral analysts suggest that a calm, controlled gait can indicate planning and composure, traits often seen in offenders who are methodical and deliberate. Yet paradoxically, such confidence can also suggest recklessness, a man who believes he will not be caught. Detectives had to interpret these subtle cues carefully. Hands in pockets, body posture squared and steady. Every micro-movement was scrutinized. Investigators cross-referenced these details with witness reports and the sketches produced from public tips. At first, these details seemed minor, but combined, they painted a psychological profile of a man who was both cautious and audacious, someone comfortable in the environment, yet aware of observation risks. The clothing became as important as the movements. Detectives noted the dark jacket, the style of the hat, the possible brand of shoes. Each element was cataloged, then cross-checked with reports of people seen on the bridge that day. Analysts considered how clothing might reflect intent, casual yet inconspicuous, allowing the man to blend in, yet providing some protection against environmental hazards. Even the seemingly mundane choices were clues to his behavior. The faint words captured on Liberty's phone added another layer. Detectives debated whether the man had spoken them or if they were incidental sounds from the environment. Audio specialists enhanced the clip, isolating every syllable. Could these words indicate direction, instruction, or merely a casual utterance? Every interpretation carried profound implications for the investigation. The smallest sound could tip the balance between a lead and a dead end. Why had no one identified him yet? Could there have been other unnoticed clues along the bridge or trail? Were early observations missed by those patrolling the area? Investigators understood that patience and meticulousness were the only way forward. Each frame, each gesture, each whisper had to be interpreted without bias, piecing together the invisible threads of a man who had remained unseen for far too long. Investigators later realized the importance of layering evidence. Gait analysis, clothing details, hand positions, and audio, when examined together, began to form a pattern. Behavioral experts commented on the man's calm and deliberate demeanor, noting that it suggested prior experience navigating environments without detection. Yet the fact remained, despite all this evidence, the man remained unidentified. His identity locked behind a few seconds of footage that refused to reveal all of its secrets at once.
The detectives had built a detailed profile, piece by piece, frame by frame. But that was only the beginning. What investigators discovered next, connecting this video to eyewitness reports and public tips, would propel the case toward a breakthrough, finally narrowing the field to a suspect who had eluded capture for years. The bridge had revealed its secrets, but only partially. Even as detectives analyzed the video captured by Liberty German, they knew they could not solve the case with footage alone. Witnesses along the trail became an essential part of the puzzle. Hikers who passed near the bridge that day recalled seeing a man, a shadowy figure walking calmly, hands in his pockets, moving in ways that seemed ordinary, yet somehow unsettling. These accounts were fragmented, sometimes contradictory, and often just fleeting impressions, but every detail mattered. The first sketches were released in 2017 based on witness statements and the video frames. A man in his 40s, hat, jacket, average build, nothing extraordinary to the untrained eye, yet each line, each shadowed contour reflected the subtle observations of those who had crossed paths with him. Public tips started to pour in, some accurate, many conflicting, each one adding both clarity and confusion to the investigation. Why did the sketches differ? Did witnesses remember differently, or was the suspect altering his appearance to avoid detection? Investigators knew that human memory is fallible and that even small inconsistencies could delay the breakthrough. Yet they could not ignore a single tip. Every piece of information had the potential to lead to the elusive figure known as Bridge Guy. Investigators faced a complex web of data, video analysis, witness statements, public tips, sketches, and phone records. Some witnesses reported seeing the man near the bridge, others on the trail below. Timing varied, descriptions varied, and yet patterns began to emerge. Detectives had to weigh each account carefully, discarding what seemed unreliable while identifying consistencies that could help define a suspect profile. The public tried to help, sending tips and suggestions, but answers remained out of reach. Some tips contradicted the video evidence, others introduced new leads that proved false. Every message brought hope, yet also frustration, highlighting the immense difficulty of narrowing the search to a single individual. Investigators were caught between too much information and not enough certainty. Behavioral experts reviewed these accounts alongside the video. Subtle consistencies began to appear: the man's calm gait, his posture, his clothing. Investigators noticed that his movements seemed deliberate, his path across the bridge and along the trail calculated. These insights would later help create a psychological profile, a cautious yet confident individual, someone comfortable in familiar spaces but careful to avoid direct attention. How could one man appear so ordinary yet remain unidentified for years? Could early clues have been overlooked? Were there other witnesses who never came forward? And if so, could additional evidence still be hidden in plain sight along the trail? These questions haunted the detectives and the public alike, fueling speculation and intensifying the search. The second sketch was released later in 2017, refined using additional public tips and a closer study of the video footage. Minor changes in facial structure, the shape of the hat, even the posture were adjusted to better reflect what the investigators believed the man looked like. Yet despite these refinements, the bridge guy remained a mystery, frustrating both the community and law enforcement. Despite every effort, witness accounts, sketches, tips, and video analysis, the man remained unidentified. Every clue seemed to circle back on itself, offering insight yet also deepening the uncertainty. But investigators soon discovered something that would change everything, a connection between a tip, the sketches, and the video that finally began to point toward a specific individual. What they uncovered next would shock the community and push the investigation into a new, critical phase. For years, the identity of the man on the bridge remained a haunting mystery. Witnesses described a shadowy figure, sketches offered a visual approximation, and the video captured a fleeting image of a man walking calmly, hands in his pockets, moving in ways that seemed ordinary, yet somehow unsettling. These accounts were fragmented, sometimes contradictory, and often just fleeting impressions, but every detail mattered.
Detectives revisited every lead, every tip, every subtle observation. Frame by frame, step by step, they compared the video with witness sketches. And then something remarkable happened. A name began to surface repeatedly. Richard Allen. It wasn't a guess, it was a convergence of evidence. Witness statements, public tips, and the video began pointing toward the same individual. But could one name solve years of uncertainty? Could the pieces of the puzzle really fit together, or was it just another coincidence? Investigators knew they needed hard confirmation, something more than sketches, something undeniable. Forensic analysts meticulously compared Richard Allen's gait, clothing, and movements to the video footage. Shoulder tilt, stride length, subtle sways of the body, all matched. Experts later confirmed that his natural walk corresponded almost exactly with the man captured on Liberty German's phone. At first, this seemed like circumstantial evidence, but its precision was striking. Investigators then turned to forensic evidence and timeline reconstruction. Items found near Allen's residence, combined with location tracking and prior sightings, linked him directly to the area and time frame of the Delphi murders. Ballistic and trace evidence, when analyzed alongside the timeline of bridge footage and witness reports, added another layer of certainty. Each piece of the investigation began converging on one undeniable reality. Finally, the pieces began to fit together. The man captured on video, the descriptions from witnesses, the evolving sketches, and the forensic evidence all pointed toward Richard Allen. Detectives had spent years piecing together fragmented clues, and now the investigation was entering its final, critical phase. Yet even with mounting evidence, questions lingered. Was this enough to make an arrest? Could the suspect have known he was being filmed, or had he simply slipped through unnoticed until now? Each question heightened the tension as authorities prepared for the next step. Behavioral analysts noted that Allen's calm and methodical demeanor observed in the video matched what detectives had come to expect from a careful, calculated individual. His composure under observation, the measured gait, and the choice of isolated yet accessible locations suggested someone accustomed to navigating spaces without drawing attention, someone who planned meticulously yet operated with chilling confidence. Detectives were now on the verge of closing the loop, but the final confirmation would come only with careful coordination and timing. One wrong move could let the suspect slip away. What investigators discovered next would finally bring clarity and set the stage for justice in a case that had haunted Delphi for years. The breakthrough didn't come from a single source. It was the relentless combination of video analysis, witness reports, evolving sketches, forensic corroboration, and sheer persistence. Richard Allen had emerged from the shadows, and the investigation was finally on a path to resolution. After years of painstaking investigation, Richard Allen was arrested. The man who had haunted Liberty German's final video, who had remained unseen yet ever present in the minds of the community, was finally in custody. But even as justice took its first steps, the shadow of the Monon High Bridge still left questions unanswered. The arrest was not sudden. It was the culmination of years of methodical work, video analysis, witness statements, public tips, forensic cross-checking, and timeline reconstruction. The bridge video captured a fleeting moment, but detectives treated each second as a piece of the puzzle. Gait, clothing, posture, and even subtle hand movements were compared against witness accounts and sketches. Every detail was scrutinized until the evidence converged on a single individual, Richard Allen. Could the video have revealed more than investigators realized? Did Allen know he had been recorded? And even now, as authorities had him in custody, could some early clues have been missed along the trail or beneath the bridge? These questions lingered, haunting the case as much as the community itself. Forensic evidence confirmed what detectives had suspected. Location data, witness sightings, and behavioral patterns aligned with the bridge video. Experts noted that Allen's calm, deliberate movements reflected a calculated presence, someone who had carefully navigated public spaces without drawing attention. The psychological profile matched the observed behavior, composed, methodical, and chillingly unremarkable to passers-by.
Detectives coordinated every step. The arrest required precision. One wrong move could jeopardize the case. But when authorities moved in, years of investigation bore fruit. Allen was taken into custody without incident. Yet the arrest answered some questions while leaving others unanswered. The community exhaled a long-held breath, but the grief and shock lingered. Friends and neighbors gathered at the bridge to remember Abigail and Liberty. Their lives, cut tragically short, had been honored through a relentless pursuit of truth. Yet even as the suspect faced justice, the memory of that ordinary day on the trail remained forever imprinted in the town's consciousness. Could there have been evidence still unnoticed along the bridge or trail? Were there moments captured in the video that investigators had yet to fully interpret? Even with the arrest, the smallest questions continued to echo. How close had the community come to finding answers sooner? And what subtle clues might still hold secrets about the suspect's movements or intentions? The Delphi case demonstrated the power of persistence, collaboration, and meticulous observation. One short video, a handful of sketches, witness statements, and forensic analysis combined to finally reveal the identity of the bridge guy. Yet the case also serves as a reminder, even the smallest detail can conceal the darkest truth. Every shadow, every whisper, every frame can be crucial. One short video, years of investigation, and a community forever changed. The story of the Delphi murders is a chilling reminder that even the smallest clue can reveal the darkest truths, and that justice, no matter how delayed, demands attention, patience, and unwavering determination. The Delphi case stands as a stark reminder of how a single moment captured on a smartphone can ripple through years of investigation, changing lives forever. One short video revealed a shadowy figure on the bridge, a man who would become the focus of relentless detective work and forensic analysis. Yet even after Richard Allen's arrest, questions remain. Did he know he had been recorded? Could early clues have been overlooked? Was there evidence hidden along the trail or beneath the bridge that investigators never fully uncovered? Each unanswered question reminds us that the truth can be both revealed and elusive. For the community, the arrest brought a measure of closure, but not healing. Abigail and Liberty's lives were cut short, and the echoes of that ordinary afternoon on the trail remain in the hearts of all who remember. Their story underscores the importance of vigilance, persistence, and the painstaking work of investigators who refuse to let a case fade into uncertainty. One short video, years of investigation, and a community forever changed. The Delphi murders remind us that even the smallest clue can reveal the darkest truths, and that justice, no matter how delayed, demands attention, patience, and unwavering determination.